So the first thing in this storytelling for startups session, so the first thing that's interesting from that I need to know is, well, what's your idea? And I think it's really important that you can give a brief description in 1 or 2 sentences of what you need to pitch. What's the idea? What's the startup idea you've got? Because we're focusing in this session on pitches. So it's really important for you to be able to do that, because you need to be able to, in conversation with somebody, get straight to the point. Here's what I've got. Here's my idea. So that's why it's really good. So Rick and Ali and John, thank you very much for giving me a very concise description of what it is you're trying to do. Okay, what I'm going to talk you through today is this template. Now, there's a lot of information on there, so I'm not going to, this will be available to you, should be available to you already as a PDF, but I'll send it to you after the session. This is, by the end of this session, I think this will help you to create the kind of stories that you need to approach a simple pitch, whether that's to an investor or a funding body or a bank or a business planner or a colleague, or even to a customer. A startup pitch is slightly different to a sales pitch, because you're not just selling a product, you're selling a business as well. So it's slightly different, but essentially it follows the same kind of pattern. So let me talk you through these different stages. Well, the first stage, as I said before, is what's your idea? And you need to be able to get your idea across in 1 or 2 sentences, because if you can't do that, it suggests you don't really know, it suggests to me, the listener, you don't really know what your business is if you can't say it succinctly in 1 or 2 lines. Okay. And it was interesting that John and Rick and Ali all gave me a similar sort of pattern, which is, here's what I do, here's who I do it for. Right, okay, so really simple. Here's what I do, here's who I do it for. Right, so let's carry on. What else do you need to have? Okay, well, the first and most important part of any communication is, hang on a second, is who is your audience? And also, crucially, what's in it for them? What's in it for your audience? Okay, so Julio says, I work in a business angel club in Mexico. We're supporting the go-to-market for startups from Mexico and Latin America. Right. Wow, that sounds exciting, Julio. Right, brilliant. That sounds very, very interesting. I'd love to have your input on what we're talking about. So, what I'd like to know from you, is, again, you can use the chat box on here not on Zoom, it's collaboration. Okay, who do you think your audience is for this story? Now, it might be an investor that you need to reach first. It might be a customer. It might be a funder. Okay, but it's really important that you think, because each time you tell a story, if it's for a different type of audience, the story should be slightly different. So let me just go through. What do I mean by, okay, who's your audience? What's in it for them is the really important question. So let me give you an example. I work with a lot of companies, including companies. There's a company in Estonia I was working with recently called Goswift. And Goswift makes a new product. And the product basically allows you to track vehicles going across borders. So if you've got lorry fleet and you want to get it across a border, you can, excuse me, you've got to get through secure barriers into a ferry port. Then this technology helps you get the lorry quickly through the barrier. So that's what they do. Now, when they are selling to a European client, because they're based in Europe, they're based in Northern Europe, so they will say, okay, we operate in Tallinn and Helsinki and Rotterdam, and if you need to get your goods through Rotterdam port. So they're talking to European clients about what they do in Europe. Okay, they then go on to talk to the Middle East. So they start talking to Middle Eastern clients in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And I said to them, well, you need to talk about goods flowing in and out of Middle Eastern ports. So Dubai International, the biggest port in the Middle East. Okay, use that as your example rather than Tallinn. Tallinn's in Estonia. It's not a place that lots of people have heard of. So, okay, change your message slightly to fit the audience you're talking to. So, excuse me. So, this is why it's important to think about your audience, because you might have the same core message. So the same core message for Goswift is, we are a safe and efficient way of moving traffic. But where you place that story might change depending on who you're talking to. So it's worth always thinking about who's your audience, and also think, what's in it for them? You don't talk to people because you like your idea. That's not good enough. Not good enough for me anyway. I like the fact that you like your idea, but it's not enough. That's not enough for me to go, okay, I'm now interested. So first question is, what do they want? What do they need? What's the problem that you're going to help them with? Okay, so Rick and Ali and John. Well, Ali and John actually both mentioned straight away the kind of problem, Ali especially, the kind of problem that your audience has. Well, they're humans, yes? They're humans, and they make mistakes, and they risk their business. Okay, so that's kind of their negative, if you like, that they're looking for your help with. And with everyone, it'll be different. Then you look at, okay, what are their goals? What are their values? What are their ambitions? These are the things that make them feel positive about you or your idea. So they may have an ambition to move into e-commerce, right? So Ali's working with a small medium company who are selling mainly in kind of shops, but they want to move into e-commerce. And if Ali can help them overcome their doubts about cybersecurity, it'll make that ambition much more easy to achieve. But again, you can't know this until you find out about your customer. Okay, so Ali's put a message in saying, my audience are early adopters. Yeah, I'll approach investors when I have pilots. Good. What's in it for them? Good. Reduced cyber risk. Yes, so taking away a problem. Better visibility into the strengths and weaknesses of their employees. Okay, so one of their values as an employer is, I need to know my workers. Yes, I need to support my workers. That's because I'm feeling, that's my positive message. So I'm going to be interested in what Ali has to offer because I want to support my workers. And that's an important ambition for me. Okay, so if you know that about this company, you can start to switch your message around to fit them. Then you can think about, okay, what are their influences? What are their sources of information? Because this really matters. If you think about, okay, think about an innovation that we are all aware of. We're all aware of the need to vaccinate. That's a new thing, COVID vaccinations. That's a new thing that's come along. One of the most important things when you're trying to reach people and persuade them to do a new thing is to work out, what do they already know about that new thing? Where are they getting information from? So obviously with the case of vaccination, people are getting all kinds of different information from their friends, from social media, from different news outlets, and from doctors. And so all of these influences are important. Now you can argue that some are right and some are wrong, doesn't really matter. What matters is they are influential. So your mates are influential, your parents, your family, your friends. Okay, you get the idea. So the more you can find out about my target, my small and medium, the woman running an SME, she's my target. What does she know about cybersecurity? What does she know about strategic consultancy? What does she know about marketing tools? Where does she get her information from? Is she looking on LinkedIn? Is she reading a business magazine? Okay, and then finally, it's useful if you can find out what do they do or say or think already about your idea. A lot of this comes down to kind of Googling and stalking, cyber stalking, going on social media and going on LinkedIn and going on the company's website and reading what they say about themselves and looking for information about what do they already do. There's an awful lot of information out there before you approach a customer. Now, what this helps you to do, right, is helps you to avoid the simple trap of trying to be nice and being ignored. Let me give you an example of how that works. So I use LinkedIn quite a lot, and occasionally I get people offering to connect with me on LinkedIn. And one guy sent me a connection. I said, okay, let's connect. And then straight away I got a message saying, thanks for connecting. Is there anything I can do to help you? Now, on the face of it, you think, well, that's quite a nice thing to say. Is there anything I can do to help you? And then I thought, okay, I'm going to be a skeptic here. I'm going to be mean. And I thought, what? Anything? Is there anything? So my dog needs walking. My house needs cleaning. The washing up needs doing. You going to help me with those? No, of course not. So when you say, is there anything I can help you with? What do you mean? Well, here's what you mean. You mean I'm going to have to now look at your profile on LinkedIn to work out what you do for a living and then figure out whether what you do for a living could help me do what I do for a living. So you're asking me to do your homework for you. So I blocked him straight away because I thought, no, that's not how it works. You're not respecting my time. Therefore, I'm blocking you. So what seems to be on the face of it a nice offer, is there anything I can do to help you? No, it's not. It's lazy. It's lazy and it's inconsiderate. And he wasn't thinking about me at all. It would have taken him 60 seconds to look at my website and look at my social media, 3 minutes maybe to look through my digital presence. And then he could have said, hey, Steve, I do digital marketing for a living. I see you're active on LinkedIn, but you're not really using Facebook. Can I help you with Facebook? Now that's how to approach a customer. Okay. So for the consultants among us, yes, management consultant, social media consultant, cybersecurity consultant, make your approach very specific. Talk to you. Is there anything I can help you with? Yeah? Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Steve.
Yes, go on, please do.
Question on that. I mean, I follow what you're saying. I'm just, is that potentially perceived as intrusive as well? I mean, could that approach be perceived as intrusive to sort of?
If you said, look, I've got your bank account details and I think you're in, yeah, that's, I suppose if it's too stalky, yes, that could be perceived as problematic. I think that, yeah, I think I don't think it's a big deal if yeah, look, there'll be a line, and for some people that'll be crossing the line. So some people really don't like cold calls. Yeah. And any way that you approach somebody cold, they just go, no, don't want to know. I don't know who you are. I'm busy. Go away.
Yeah.
In those cases, this is why the most important marketing tool you've got is your network. The people who you've already worked with in any capacity, whether they're at university, your fellow students at university, or voluntary work you've done, or any kind of work you've done. Those people are your best way of meeting new customers because they already trust you, right? And they are going to be able to introduce you possibly to people who you can, okay, that when someone who knows me says, Steve, would you like to talk to Rick? He's done some work for me, he's really good. Right, fantastic. The barrier comes right down, as opposed to you contacting me saying, hi, I'm Rick, I'm really good. Okay, so you get the idea. So your network is actually the most powerful way at all of meeting new customers. But you can't always, there's only so much you can do with your network. You're going to have to go outside your network at some point, and that's when the more homework you can do about the person you're approaching, I think, the better.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you a very, very quick insight, we've sort of identified two segments in the SME. There's sort of SME managing directors, or people that run everything that like networking, they do it actively, and they tend to already know about various different consultants like us, potentially, and then there's another segment of people that don't really network, they're not into it, and they're potentially the ones that sort of waiting for the cold call, and some wish potentially, if somebody phoned me up with some strategy advice, I'd be all over it, but nobody has,
It's interesting. So it's an interesting one, strategy. For a while before I moved into storytelling as a sort of advice service about 3 years ago. And before I did that, I actually was teaching innovation skills. And about 2 years in, I came to realize it was very hard to sell, because how do you kind of describe innovation? How do you describe the lack of it? Have you got a problem with innovation? Well, most people don't think they do. They don't realize they've got a problem with innovation until their competitor starts doing something they can't do. Okay, so it's good. It's a very interesting challenge of how do you how do you meet people who don't know they need you? It's a really interesting challenge. Presume you've gone down the networking organizations route there, Rick?
I mean, we are and intend to do more of that. Yes. Yeah.
Also, I don't know whether Ali and John, you're also in the business of considering, offering yourself as consultants and skills. Are you already using organizations or experimenting with organizations like FoE&I? And Rick, do you have any who you recommend as good networking organizations?
Well, we're sort of, I mean, I couldn't sort of vouch for any in particular. I mean, to be honest, it's mostly online at the moment, having been locked down. There's one that I know of in East Lancashire that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Institute of Directors as well.
There's lots of different. Rick's right. There are lots of different organisations out there. I'm not going to recommend one over any others. They all offer similar kind of service, which is meet and discuss with other people who are in a similar position. Now, okay, it's worth looking into. But anyway, but yes, to your point, to answer your question, Rick, in a long-winded way, there's obviously a line between doing your homework on someone and stalking them, being intrusive. Where that line lies, I'm afraid, is very, very subjective, and it depends on the person you're talking to. I personally think I think that if you can adapt your introduction of your message to so that it sounds like you're talking to me. Yeah, I just think that's so much better than talking about yourself. So I was working with a client 2 days ago, and they sent me a copy of the email that they've been sending to prospective clients, cold call emails. And they were sending the same email over and over again, just cutting and pasting different addresses into it. And I said, okay, here's the problem. the first paragraph is all about you, all about the person sending the email. It's all about, here's our company, we do this, we do this, we do this. Okay. And then there's another paragraph about the different sectors you work in. You know, we work in marine engineering and blah, blah, blah. And I said, nobody starts a conversation. If you meet somebody at a party, right, or party, when do we last go to a party? If you meet somebody on Zoom, all right, you don't start the conversation by talking about yourself for 3 minutes. That's kind of weird. The conversation is like a sort of two backwards and forwards. Hey, okay, so what do you work in? Oh, that's interesting. Right, it's backwards and forwards. You find out about the other person. So when you're approaching somebody, you don't want to, it's almost like a conversation. You don't want to dominate the conversation by talking about yourself. So I said to this client, I said, okay, rather than that first paragraph being all about your company, why not make it about my company? So use words like you. Okay, so hi, we work with companies like you in the maritime sector. Okay, so straight away you're signaling that you know my business, you know my problem, you know my industry, straight away. So actually, straight away, it's about me, the recipient, not about you, the sender. And then you can talk about your own skills and your own abilities. But you come to that later. The first thing you're indicating is, I know a bit about you. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're going to get a reply. Okay, there's no guarantees in this world at all that you'll get a reply, but I think you're more likely to if you show interest in somebody. Okay, now, where was I? Back to the presentation. Okay, so where are we? Here's an interesting challenge. Can you explain your idea in your audience's words? So let's imagine that. Okay, so Rick, you're approaching this MD who doesn't really network and has got a problem. Now what the reality is, he's got a problem with his strategy. Does he say that, or does he call it something else? Does he actually say something like, I don't really know where we're going. I don't really know what. Okay, is there something that there's some sort of language that they use that doesn't involve the S word? Yeah, strategy. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. So in other words, can you speak to them and get your idea across, but using the kind of language they use? And I think that's quite an interesting challenge. This is what really good copywriters do. What really good writers do is they can explain their idea, but using the words of the person they're trying to reach. Okay, so that's thinking about the audience. And it's really, really important in any form of communication. The more you know about your audience, the better. Because that's why I spent the first 5 minutes of this call asking people to tell me about their business idea. Yes, because now I can talk to Rick and Ali and John about their ideas. And guys, to the people who just joined recently, Sukaleen, yeah, and Julio, Daniel, if you just joined and you want to join in this, and we'll come on the chat and tell me about the business idea you've got. Or come on the mic now if you like. Or put something into the chat, because it helps me to help you. Makes this presentation much more interesting because I'm adjusting my presentation for my audience. Okay, so this is the beginning then. What's your idea? 1 sentence, 2 sentences the most. Who's your audience? And crucially, what's in it for them? So in other words, you're looking for a meaningful relationship with an investor or a customer. Right? You're not looking for a one night stand. You're looking for a long-term relationship. Therefore, there's got to be something in it for them as well as for you. And if you don't know what's in it for them, well, that's kind of disrespectful, frankly. Okay, then you move on to the hook. And a hook is really important. It's how you can grab your audience's attention in just 3 seconds. That's what I mean by the hook. So you've got a story to tell about yourself. You've got a story to tell about your idea. You've got a story to tell about your product or your service and about the problem you solve. Okay, great. But if you cannot get my attention, it doesn't matter how good your story is, I won't read it. And I say 3 seconds, right? So I say 3 seconds because look, when you're on your mobile phone and you're kind of scrolling through, you're scrolling down a feed, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, 3 seconds is about all it takes to go past your story. 3 seconds. 3 seconds, you can read about 15 words in 3 seconds. So that's quite a lot. 3 seconds is a lot. So you have to use that 3 seconds to make me stop scrolling and click. You have to use that hook to make me open your email and not bin it. So what do? What's your hook? Okay, so here's a question. What's the best way to get someone thinking along the same lines as you? Okay, it's a trick question because the answer is ask a question. So how does that work? What do I mean? When I ask you the question, what's the best way to get someone thinking along the same lines as you? What do? Well, you don't sit there going, I don't know, no idea, don't care, right? You try to work out the answer. You're thinking, oh, well, I wonder if it's, how, I don't know, how would I do it? Right, you try to come up with an answer. If I ask a question, you try to answer it. Now, it doesn't matter. Let me give you another example. Jessica, can you put me back on full screen, please? Is Jessica there? Okay, so I'm back on, am I on full screen? Okay, so folks, everyone can have a guess, and you can put them, come on the mic or put it in the chat. How old, excuse me, how old do you think my son is? Anybody want to have a guess? How old do you think my son is?
19.
12.
15. 12. 15, was that Rick?
I might guess 19, I said.
16, says Jessica. 19. Ali's gone 24. Okay, Ali thinks I look old, obviously.
16.
11. 16. Okay. Okay, well, actually, the correct answer is 26. So Ali was the closest. But actually, the correct answer is we have no idea. We don't know. We don't even know if you have a son. We cannot tell how old your son is, okay? Because we just don't know. That's the correct answer. But you don't say that. You have a guess, yeah? And then when you try to guess the answer. And then when you try to guess the answer, you then want to work out, is your answer right or wrong? So you keep listening to me until I tell you the answer. And then you go, oh, okay. So either your answer, you guessed right. So Ali nearly got it right, in which case Ali feels clever, right? Or you guess wrong, like Jessica said 16. Now, Jessica has learned something and she now feels clever. So it's a win-win. Whatever you do, when you ask a question, you get somebody's attention. They will listen to you until you give them the answer. And then they feel clever. What a great way to start a relationship with a client, to make them feel clever. So, very interesting. Could you put the main presentation back on again, Jessica, for me, please?
Just 1 second.
No worries.
Get the right page.
My phone on silent. Sorry, folks.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you. So the questions are really useful. So if you ask a question, people are thinking about the answer, which means they're thinking what you want them to think, right? Mind control. You've got them where you want them. How useful is that? They can't help it. It's out of their control. That's clever stuff. Here's another way you can think of a hook. And a hook is in the acronym PAIN. And PAIN gets our attention. And PAIN stands for anything that's personal. You're talking to me? Oh, okay, you're talking to me, right. That gets my attention. So in any email that starts, hey, Steve, I can't help but pay attention to it, even though I know it's come from MailChimp. Okay, so it's personal. It's about something abrupt. So the email I've got to deal with this afternoon is, your WordPress subscription is about to run out. Okay, right. Ali, this is the world you're in, yeah? Hackers could close your business now. Oh, right, that's scary. The business you're in as well, Ali, it's also about things that are immoral, things that are wrong, yes? Somebody could close your business, somebody could take your money, somebody could ruin your reputation online, someone could destroy your customer. Right, that's immoral. That gets our attention, it's wrong. And then of course, it's right now. Somebody could be doing this to you right now. You could be losing money now. Oh, okay. Rick, you can use this as well. Your business, personal, is your business lost? Question. And I'm going, oh, well, okay. So these are all hooks. So what I'd like to suggest is we can think about, right, frame your idea as an urgent question. Right. So Ali, Ali says, sell them fear. Well, you know, fear is a powerful emotion, and we know it works in sales. You can also sell them hope, Ali. That's a nice one too. It's more positive, but you can certainly sell people fear. Or you're not really selling fear, you're selling security. Different. Okay. So can you frame your idea? So I'm a management consultant. I want to work with small and medium-sized enterprises. I want to help them with their strategy. That's Rick's idea. So can you turn that into a question? Can you make your idea, the problem you're solving, seem personal or abrupt or immoral or now? I was working with some guys in Dublin this week, and we got to this stage of the session, and there was an engineer who was trying to persuade his bosses to start using tracking software to track their lorries and containers and, you know, track their assets around the country. And he said, look, we'll lose. Why are we paying somebody else to track our information? This is crazy. Question. And then he came up with another question. Why are our competitors laughing at us? Okay. You see what I mean? See the power of the hook? You can't ignore a good hook. You can't ignore a good question. You can't ignore something that works like a hook. Okay, so that's a challenge for all you to think about. I've got an idea. Fantastic, you've got an idea. Brilliant, you're already way ahead of most people. So I've got an idea. I know who my audience is. Right, I'm going to frame my idea, frame the problem as a question. Why is, why don't, how could, are you? Yeah, all questions. And I might try and make it feel personal, abrupt, immoral, like it needs to be dealt with now. Okay, these are all good hooks. What I would say about a hook, particularly about using a question as a hook, if you ask a question by the end of your presentation, story, email, whatever, by the end of the conversation, you must have provided your answer. Otherwise, it's kind of cheating, and we feel let down. So use a question. By the end of it, You've given the answer, your answer. Okay. Questions. Tell you what, the other great thing about questions is questions start conversations. And that's what you want to get to. You want to get to a conversation with your target customer or supporter. Okay, any questions about that so far? Because we're going to go from hooks into stories now. Anybody want to ask a question about the idea of crafting a hook? Anyone struggling to do it? Okay, in that case I shall move.
I mean, just since you could.
Oh.
I mean, I get the concept, definitely. Thanks, Steve. It's really good. I was just thinking of the example you were giving when you were scrolling through your phone, and so you just mentioned in a presentation, in an email, yeah, you'll have the opportunity to pose the question at the beginning and then answer it. What kind of context would you see in LinkedIn or something like that? Would it be?
Well, LinkedIn. So if you put an article up on LinkedIn, for example, so if you use LinkedIn, you can use very simply. You can use as a kind of active CV. So you put your experience, your previous occupations, your skills, like a CV, and that you can just leave it at that. You can and do nothing more than that. And it's like it's like an online CV. You know that. The next level up is you can start using it to network. So it's a CV with networking built in. So you start approaching people, okay, make connections, have conversations, get recommendations from people you've already worked with, okay? Very powerful. Recommendations, by the way, are just stories. Testimonials are just stories. The other thing you can do is you can start using it as a publishing platform. So you can say, right, I am going to talk about my work and my expertise. Ali, by the way, that's a great question. Thank you for that. I'm going to talk about my work. I'm going to talk about my skills. I'm going to talk about my insights, and I'm going to use either posts or articles to do it. So a simple short post always with a picture makes it more user friendly. Simple short post or a longer, more in-depth article. Okay, when you post when you post something on LinkedIn, you've always got to think, okay, when someone sees that post on their feed, how many words do they see? Well, they see about 10 or 15 words and then it cuts off. Likewise, when you're looking at your notifications panel on LinkedIn, you see the first 10 or 15 words and then it says, click here to get more. So, right, that's where you try and use your hook. Whether it's a question, or a personal approach, something that's wrong, whatever. That's where you use your hook, and it's got to be 10 words. And then obviously, if you're writing a very short post, it can be up to 10 words for the hook. And then if I click into the post, by the end of it, I get the answer. Question, 30 words later, answer. If it's an article, well, that's how your headline writing works. So your headline writing is trying to provide a hook, and then in the body of the article, you satisfy that hook. You answer the question. So that's what. But remember that as people are going through LinkedIn, whatever you're writing, they're only seeing the first. Excuse me. They're only seeing the first 10 words. What also is interesting with LinkedIn is when they look at your profile, okay, they only see the first maybe 4 words of your own description of yourself. So Rick, in your case, I don't know what your LinkedIn profile says about you at the moment, but some people often waste those words by saying stuff that's generic, like independent-minded, entrepreneurial, agile. And by the time, but you don't get to see anything else because the rest of it's disappeared. Whereas actually Rick could go, Rick, I'm not sure. Sorry, I don't know what your surname is. And then the next 3, strategy for SMEs.
Yeah.
Right. So not management consultant, freelance management consultant. No, there's too many of those out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
First 3 words, strategy for SMEs. Ali, same again, not a freelance management consultant expert in cybersecurity, but cybersecurity for small business. Yeah. Okay. Same with John. Yeah. Marketing for SMEs. Then you can put the word expert, freelance, innovative, agile, all that stuff comes later if you want to. But remember, look at other people's profiles and think, when I look at that profile, what gets my attention? And it's not the generic stuff about how agile or innovative that person is. It's what do you do? What do you do, and who do you do it for, and why are you, what's your specialism? So in my case, for my LinkedIn, my profile says, he said, I'm just checking it's good. Tell great stories about your work. Okay, so it's a personal, tell great stories about your work. So hopefully when people see me coming up, okay, hopefully they see something useful about me and think, okay, that's what Steve does, rather than, by the time you said founder, co-founder, CEO at whatever, yeah, I am the founder of my business, I am the CEO of my business, but frankly, so what? That doesn't tell you anything about me that's useful to you. It just tells you what my rank is. So what? Doesn't matter. So yeah, think really carefully about when you think about when someone sees you on their mobile phone, right? They're only seeing a tiny amount of information. What is it? But coming back to your posts question, every post can start with a hook. Every article can start with a hook. You can start a presentation to people with a hook. Ask a question at the beginning of the presentation, answer it by the end. It's kind of weird to do it in a conversation, like you're having a normal conversation with people, just, you don't want to come across as, people can tell when you're pitching to them. And sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's not. So if you're in a networking situation, it's genuinely a conversation, that's not the right place to pitch. Someone says, hey, what do you do? And you can say, oh, well, I do this. That's not you starting a pitch. That's you having a conversation. And if you go on for too long about what you do without showing any interest in them, they start backing away and they go, oh, God, he never shuts up. Bloody hell. Okay, so different approaches for different audiences and different situations. Okay, thank you for the question, Rick. So, talked about audience, talked about hook. Let's talk about story. What's your story? It seems like I've taken a long time to get around to stories, but here we are. So stories, why bother with stories? Can't I just give people the facts? Well, here's the thing. People make sense of the world in terms of stories rather than facts or logic. That's the idea behind a book by a guy called Walter Fisher, who came up with the idea of this narrative paradigm. And a paradigm is a way of seeing the world. So the scientists see the world through a scientific paradigm. But most of us, most of the time, see the world, we make sense of the world through stories. Stories we tell about ourselves, stories we hear about other people. They make sense. And we trust messages that feel like stories. They feel story-ish. Let me give you a little example. Let's see. Well, the first story I'm going to share with you is the most simple story of all. When I say something feels story-ish, it's because it follows a story arc. Now, you've probably heard people talk about story arcs before without really knowing what they meant. I'm going to show you 3 story arcs. Okay, so a story arc at its simplest is you go from a bad place to a good place. There's a problem, you've got the solution. As you go from down to up. So that's the most basic, and it's the rags to riches story of Before you met me, your business was at risk of cyber hacking. After you work with Ali, after you work with Ali, you are free of cyber hack. Okay, so you've got problem, solution. The problem is a negative place. The solution is a positive place. So it's a rags to riches. Every entrepreneur who makes $1 million, tells a rags to riches story of I started out with nothing and I, working in a garage with my, okay, we know the story. We've all heard it before. It's an interesting one. It's a very positive story. It's a very powerful story. That is the simplest version of the story you should be able to tell about your business idea. My customers have a problem. When they work with me, I give them a solution. I get them to a better place. So that's the simplest story you can all tell, or you should all be able to tell about your business idea. However, let's do a little test. So I want to see, again, see if you get on the chat, see if you can fill in the gaps in this story about an entrepreneur. And this is a true story, and I want to see if you can finish this story, fill the gaps, using just 3 words. Okay. The founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a man she met. Okay, let's see who gets it first. Finish that story in just 3 words. Ali is on it. Yes. On Match.com. Yeah. The founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a man she met on Match.com. Now, how did we know? Ali, you've ever heard that story before? On the street. Okay, so Zirclin says on the street, but the reality is, if the answer had been like, on the street or while out jogging or in a pub or, so Ali hadn't heard the story before, but he knew how it ended. Okay, and it didn't end on the street or out jogging or in the pub. Okay, it didn't, because that's not a story. The founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a man she met on the street is not a story, it's just a random fact. The founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a man she met on Match.com. That's funny. That's dramatic, to Ali's point. That's a dramatic outcome. Yeah, that's a good story. Yeah? So it's a good story because it follows a pattern. And the pattern is this. It sounds like a rags to riches story, but then it comes crashing down. It's actually a pride and fall story. So the story goes like this. There's a founder of a tech company. He's very clever. He creates this wonderful thing, but then he loses something because he's going, I'm so clever, look at me. Bang. Comes crashing down. This is a very old story. This is the story of Titanic. We've built a ship that's unsinkable. Ha. Oh, no, it isn't. This is the story of Jurassic Park. We can clone dinosaurs. Oh, they're eating people. This is the story of Napoleon's march on Moscow in 1812. I can in Russia. Oh, all my soldiers are dead. So it's a very old story. In fact, it's as old as the Tower of Babel. It's as old as the Garden of Eden. It's a very old story. And there's something interesting going on. When you tell a story that sounds too good to be true, you've got a problem, I can solve it. If that's all you've got, if that's your only story, well, there's a danger that you're saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And I'm going, yeah, don't believe you. Sounds too good to be true. That's a problem. If you think about it with technology, right? I know none of you are talking about tech ideas, but think about technology. We're skeptical about Google Glass or whatever. And skepticism is a storyish reaction to any pitch, any idea, any business that sounds too good to be true. We don't like it. We don't believe it. So if your only story is, hey, I can do amazing things, does your pitch sound too good to be true? And if it does, what are you going to do about it? Now, let me share with you another example of somebody who gets the pitch, in my mind, They get the pitch just right. So this is a company I worked with a couple of years ago, and they are they're a European company. They make timber houses. They come in kit, so they come in big slabs, and you put them together, or your builder puts them together. And when you look at the website, it tells you a kind of rags to riches story. Look, here's a kit home that you can afford. Save your money, save your time. This will make your life better. So it's basically, you've got a problem, we've got the dream house. Okay, so it's a simple rags to riches story. But the next thing you see when you go down the website is this. It's 100 questions that you should ask before building your house. And it's basically full of problems. So you might hit a problem with planning permission, with sewage, with broadband, with trees, with weather, with all these different things. There's 100 different problems that you might hit as you go along. And you go, wow, okay, well, that's a bit sobering, that is. Right, okay. Because I thought it would take like 3 weeks to build a kit house. Turns out it takes about 6 months if you're lucky, because it's really difficult. So I said to the company who were doing this, I said, okay, as a matter of interest, when you put that guide up on your website, oh, and by the way, they charge you $30 to download the guide, right? That's interesting. They don't even give that stuff away for free. They charge $30. Okay, I said to them, when you do that, when you did that, when you made that change on the website, what happened to the volume of sales calls you got? And they said, well, the volume went down a bit, but we don't get any time wasters. People don't ring us up if they don't really, they're just dreaming of buying a house. They're not actually going to buy a house. So we don't deal with any time wasters because they've been put off by reading this. The other question I would say to you as well is, okay, imagine you had two companies side by side, yeah, and one company is just giving you the rags to riches story. Our house is brilliant. It'll save you time. It'll save you money. It's fantastic. And then the other company is saying, our house is brilliant, but it's not easy to build these things, you know. Here's some problems you might hit. Make sure you're prepared. Okay, who do you trust? Who do you trust now to spend your money with? The ones who are giving you rags to riches and nothing else, or the ones who are giving you, yeah, a story with more ups and downs? So what's going on here is, well, we've gone from the pride and fall story, we've moved it on to a story which is like a roller coaster. So you start with a problem, you try to solve it. Somewhere along the line, you hit a setback. You hit a problem, you hit another problem, and then you recover, or you help your customer recover to get a solution. So this is the story, if you like, of a long-term relationship with a customer, where it's not a quick win, it's not a quick fix. This is the story. Certainly, this is the story of consultancy, because consultancy, there are no quick fixes. This is a story that says, look, what you want to do is good, but it's not easy. And let's be honest, if it was good and easy, we'd have done it already. Yeah, the low-hanging fruit are gone. So there isn't anything that's good and easy. If someone tells you their product is, their service is good and easy, they're lying about one or the other. You know, it's like when you buy those magazines in the newsagent and you see, like, you know, men's health magazines, right? And they say, okay, you can get a 6-pack in 6 weeks. No, you can't. Yeah, it just can't be done. But people still buy the magazine, and then 6 weeks later they feel stupid because it's really hard to get that kind of, you know, that tone. Okay, so this is a much more realistic story that you tell about your relationship with a customer. You've got a problem. I'm going to start helping you. It won't be easy, but when we hit a setback, I'll be there. I'll be there and I'll help you, and we will keep on going. That's a much more realistic version of a story. So that's one story. Your simplest story you can use is rags to riches. Okay. It comes with a problem. The problem is people might think you're saying something that's too good to be true. So then your way around that is to talk about setbacks and how you recover from them, mistakes and how you put them right. So that's the much more advanced, mature, grown-up, realistic story. Now, let me share something with you about television, which is the industry I used to work in. So this is a photograph of something that terrifies television executives all around the world. It's teenagers on mobile phones. Why does it terrify them? Well, these kids are not watching telly. They're on social media mainly. They're on their phones. They're creating content for themselves. They're not watching telly. So the audience figures for TV are falling very, very fast in this age group, 18 to, well, 12 to 24-year-olds. Very, very difficult. So I was working for a client in the television industry, and they were worried, like all television executives, they were worried about youth audiences. So they asked a bunch of their youngest and brightest producers to come together and to come up with some ideas they should do. And I got involved, not because I'm young and bright. I was once, but there you go. I got involved because they wanted some help preparing their story. Okay, so I helped them, and then one of these young execs got up and she made a presentation, and it was so good, I wrote it down almost as fast as she was saying it. I wrote it down, and I said to her afterwards, look, that was so good, do you mind if I use it? Can I use it with my clients, because you've nailed it? And she said, yeah, no problem, that's cool. So it went like this. She said, right now youth audiences are falling really fast, but at the same time our main channel is still the most watched TV channel of anywhere in the UK. If we're going to sort this out, we're going to need to take some difficult decisions about scheduling, about commissioning, and about budgets. But if we get it right, we can promise this audience that when they turn on that channel, they will find something for them. So that was the beginning, if you like, the opening 40 seconds of her pitch. That's the one I said, wow, that was amazing. Because she'd done this. She put it down like, okay, there's a problem. There's also an opportunity. There are some practical steps, and then there's a promise. But even cleverer than that, without even realizing, she'd arranged it like a roller coaster. So the problem is a negative space. We're losing audiences really fast. The opportunity is positive, which is, hey, we're still the #1 channel for young audiences. Even though they're losing, we're still #1. The practical steps is back into negative space. The reason why you're back into negative space is this stuff is going to be difficult. If it was easy, we'd have done it already. So it's going to be hard. Hard is negative. The promise at the end is back into positive space. So you go problem, opportunity, practical steps, promise at the end. What is also nice about this structure is it divides quite neatly into now and the future. So where you are at now, when you're pitching your idea to potential customers or potential supporters, you can say, right, you've got a problem right now. There's also an opportunity right now. That opportunity might be, you could work with me. I'm Ali. Yeah. The opportunity might be, I can train your staff. You've got some talent in your organization. Yes. Right now, there's talent there going begging. So the problem is now. The opportunity is also now. Okay. Maybe the opportunity is, look, we're coming back from COVID. We're coming back from the pandemic. So Rick can say, look, the problem is you don't really know where to turn next with your business. The opportunity is everything's up in the air because of the pandemic. So it's a time to change. Right, practical steps. If you do this, this is going to be hard. Not going to be easy. You'd be lying if you said it's going to be easy. If it was easy, you'd have done it already. So this is going to be hard. The promise is in the future. Here's where I think we can go. So this model is a really very simple story model to use. And it is like, you've got to make it like a positive, negative, positive, negative. There's a very good TED talk. I'll put the details in the chat by a woman called Nancy Duarte, who does TED talk on about comparing. I think she compares Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech with Steve Jobs launching the first iPhone, and she said they both do problem in the present, promise in the future. Problem in the present, promise in the future. Problem, promise, problem, promise. Okay, so it works. That kind of rise and fall works in stories, works in pitches. So what's the story you've got for your business? Well, at the very least, you should have a rags to riches. Yeah, somebody's got a problem, I can give them a solution, going from a bad place to a good place. Maybe you need to make it a bit more developed and take it into a kind of problem setback recovery type of story. Maybe you've got a really simple problem, opportunity, practical steps and promise type of story. Either way, what's important here is it goes up and down. If your story is flatlining, right, nothing positive or negative is happening in your story, yeah, it's very boring. It's very dull. We don't really like those kind of stories. Okay, I'm going to quickly risk the last couple of things, and we've got 5 minutes at the end for questions. So, essential information that you need to have when you're preparing a pitch or a presentation, or even a conversation. Okay, your kind of business plan. All right. This is particularly if you're talking to investors, but also risk mitigation, which is something we'll come on to in a second. And so, okay, business plan. Well, it's simple stuff like so what do investors need to know? Well, what's your product? Where does it fit in the market? Do you own the valuable bits? So all of us who are working as consultants, most of us own the valuable bits, which is our expertise, our wisdom. If you're using somebody else's techniques or software or licensed product, well, okay, I need to know that you're not in sole charge. Do you know the legal and financial side of your business? When you're looking for investment, what value do you put on your business? How scalable is it? The big drawback with consultancy is it's quite hard to scale. You can scale consultancy by writing a book or by doing creating an online course, but it's quite hard to scale. Who are you? Who's your team? What they're trying to know is, why should I trust you with my investment, with my money? So that's basically why you do a business plan, to go with the story. Risk mitigation. Okay, risk mitigation milestones are any event that, when completed, makes your company more likely to succeed. This comes from a guy called Dave Levinsky, who's an investor and an entrepreneur in America. And I thought that was really interesting. Risk mitigation milestones, because if you think about it, if you're new, you're very risky to me, right? You've got a new idea, you've got a new product, you've got a new service. I don't know you. Okay, therefore you are very high risk. And okay, I might be a risky person. I might like taking risks, but most people don't actually, especially not risks with their own money. So you've got to find a way to drop the perception of risk, to lower the risk. So this is how Dave Levinsky suggests you can do it as an entrepreneur with a new business. So, okay, if all you've got is an idea for your business, if that's all you've got, well, okay, congratulations, you've got an idea, brilliant, well done. But you're very high risk if all you've got is an idea. But that's the start, okay? Without an idea, you've got nothing. So, okay, at least you've got an idea. But you're risk, because ideas actually are cheap, right? If you've built a prototype, okay, you've built a prototype of, so I think Ali saying, yeah, okay, so you're building a pilot for your service, Okay, great. So when you've built a pilot or a prototype, here's how I will work. This is what I do. This is what I offer. This is the online support I give. Okay, well, you've gone from risky idea to, okay, you've got a prototype. If you've got a stakeholder, someone who's backing you, someone who agrees with you, someone who's supporting you, okay, all of these things make you seem less risky to me, the customer. If you've already got a customer, even one customer, who's paying you for your time and expertise, again, you're becoming less and less risky. If you've got 100 customers, right, you're very safe, because 100 people, well, okay, you could have 100 idiots, yes, who are all stupid, but it's unlikely. What's really interesting about risk mitigation as well, and again, it's really hard when you're starting out, but what you really need to be able to tell are stories of old customers, people who've trusted you for a long time, you know, and those are great stories. People who keep coming back to you for more. Right, I've worked with them once, and then again, and then again. Those are great stories because, look, a good salesperson can sell somebody. A good salesperson can sell crap once to somebody. Yeah, you can't sell crap twice to somebody because we're not that stupid. So if you can say, look, I've done this work for this client, and again, and again, and again, and again for the same client, right? So there must be something good, because people don't buy rubbish twice. So that's how you drop your perception of risk. That's why it's very hard to be a startup, right? Because it's hard to tell stories about customers you haven't got yet. That's why when you are a startup, particularly when you're in the consultancy business, you end up giving away samples of your work. You end up doing little bits of work for people for free, so they can see. So a free sample has no risk attached, right? It's a way of getting to know you for free. So when I was starting my business, I would offer people, it's like 6 years ago, I would offer people free workshop, free lunchtime workshop for your team, 45 minutes. And, you know, if you like it, we can do more on a paid basis. And that's how I found customers. I went in and did a free workshop. It was hard to get a free workshop, right? Because you're still taking up somebody's time. You're still taking up their lunch break, right? So it's hard even to give stuff away. Was hard in the beginning, but that's how you drop the level of risk. This isn't going to cost you a penny. And when you've tried it, you can, if you like it, then let's talk rates. Let's talk how much my time costs. But your first try is free. What's interesting about the pandemic, so before the pandemic, I didn't do any online work at all. I did only face-to-face work. And it was quite difficult to get, even to get free sessions for people online, face-to-face. It was quite hard. So I'd have to travel to them. And okay, it's really easy to do a free half hour on Zoom. It's really easy. So my new business kind of took off during the pandemic because it was easy to approach new customers. Okay, so final slide. This is like, if you like, a summary. So all of the things we've talked about, what's your idea, who's your audience, what's your hook, what's your story, what's the essential information you need to get across. And finally, last thing in a pitch situation is the call to action. What do you want your audience to do next? So there should be something you want them to do. You know, click on our website, call me, look through our brochure, ask me a question. Yeah, don't just leave it flat. Ask them to do something. That's how you measure whether your story is working. Do they do the thing you're asking them to do? If they don't do the thing you're asking them to do, your story's not working. Okay, so listen, I've covered what I was going to cover. Jessica, do you want to start, or shall we open up to questions, comments, any ideas, any thoughts from people?
Feel free to turn your mics on if you did have a question, or you can pop them in the comments.
Thank you, Jessica. Don't worry if you don't have any questions, if all that makes perfect sense. Jessica, the notes in particular, there's only really one slide. This one slide here, kind of, do people have that available to them on PDF if they want it?
Yep, so after the session, we'll probably be sending out the recording and all your slides as well. And if you've got any other resources you wanted to include, you could just email them to us.
Cool. All right. Well, the PDF's the main one. As I say, I think that gives you a kind of one page. If you can fill that in, right, then that will help you prepare for a conversation, prepare for a sales conversation, prepare for an investor conversation. If you can answer all those points on that sheet, then that will really help you, I think, to get your pitch ready. Okay, so tomorrow's session, by the way, folks, tomorrow's session we're going to look at the kind of stories that you might need to tell about yourself. So this is when you're a startup, what stories do you need to tell about yourself? What stories do you need to tell about innovation, about being new? And yeah, what's the difference, for example, what's the difference between early adopters and late adopters of new things? And what kind of story does an early adopter like? And what kind of story does a late adopter need? So that's the kind of thing we'll talk about tomorrow. Again, I would love it to get to hear more about your business ideas, because that makes my life more interesting for a start. And I think it also makes it's easier for me to make the session useful for you. So guys, if you want to come back in tomorrow, you're very, very welcome. And feedback and ideas and criticism is all very welcome as well, in terms of how to make the session work more usefully for you. Okay, let's wrap it up there, shall we?
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Great session.
Good, thanks, Rick. Cheers, Ali and John, thank you very much for your contributions as well.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Colleen. Okay, Jessica, I think I shall exit from there, and I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thanks so much. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we can see some of the people from today as well. Thanks, Julio. That's a great comment. Thank you for that. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.